Many of us had been holding this secret about Harvey Weinstein for many years, and a lot of people have a lot of shame that is built around any kind of sexual assault. Some people can never talk about it and never do, and can die with that, holding that secret.
In October of 2017, actress Rosanna Arquette, best known for her roles on Pulp Fiction and Desperately Seeking Susan, was one of the first of about 100 women to come forward with sexual harassment allegations against Hollywood media mogul Harvey Weinstein.
So when you just think about the fact that it's been 5 years since the start of the Me Too movement, what's just your first reaction to that, 5 years passing?
Galvanized the movement amongst globally around the world for women and all survivors. I'm proud of it. Look where we are now. So much work to do, but it was a really important time in our world. It was a seminal moment in contemporary history.
Days after Arquette made her accusation, the hashtag MeToo took off on Twitter, and people around the world shared their own experiences of harassment and assault. It seemed to impact all industries, and it seemed to make real progress. According to a New York Times analysis in 2018, the Me Too movement brought down 201 powerful men, and nearly half of their replacements were women.
The younger generation, you are much wiser. You have a lot more than what we had now, the tools to take it to the next level, and please do.
So we wanted to know, 5 years in, what impact did this huge cultural moment and movement have on the generation to follow in its wake? We talked to students from coast to coast, and it turns out, for Gen Z, Me Too is kind of a so what.
Do you think the Me Too movement did something substantial?
It's like we only heard about Me Too when celebrities were involved.
These young women at Coastal Carolina University say, in many ways, things haven't really changed.
It was never Me Too when, something happened on a college campus. It wasn't Me Too when someone just went to work at a regular corporate office. It's not Me Too when maybe it's a black man saying that he was assaulted.
When domestic violence and sexual assault and different crimes happen on college campuses, I think they are lessened in a way. I think that you're told you shouldn't go out, with your girls, or you shouldn't dress like this.
But then something happens, and you can't say Me Too, because nobody's going to listen.
So to you, it really didn't have much impact on your life?
Absolutely not. It couldn't have. If it did, wow, okay, someone doing something for black women, that's even hard to believe there. That's shocking. I would be jumping for joy if Me Too would have done anything.
And these young women aren't alone.
Raise your hand if you're concerned about sexual assault. Every single woman and several men are concerned about sexual assault.
John Della Volpe is the director of polling at Harvard's Institute of Politics. He gathered a group of Gen Zers to ask about movements that have impacted them. Me Too didn't come up until he asked.
Feels like forever ago. I was a freshman in high school when that took off, all of the allegations. I honestly forgot that it feels like forever ago.
And it's more than just the Me Too reckoning. When it comes to feminism, attendees mostly rejected the label.
What does it mean to be a feminist today?
That's a really good question.
I think there's a certain stigma that goes along with being a feminist, at least in my mind.
Yeah, well, let's hear it.
Almost this extremist view. I think that a lot of labels are viewed as something that's very extremist.
Now, it's not just this apathy to the movement that exists. There's a much darker side that's developed over the last 5 years, especially with Gen Z males. A total rebellion to any feminist notion whatsoever, and a blossoming of misogynistic content with billions of views.
There are plenty of people who prey, I think, on these specifically young men, trying to lure them in to a community where they can feel better, they can feel some strength, and then that strength turns into a community which has a very different view, I think, of what's right and what's wrong. They talk very openly about their views of women and the rules around rape. It's okay to rape women of a particular race as long as they're within our race rather than other women.
You heard that right. Content that normalizes rape. It's a rabbit hole that's easier to slide down than you'd think. Made up of groups you may have never heard of, but millions of viewers are succumbing to their influence. Groups like MRA, or men's rights activists, that focus on what they see as discrimination against men, but critics see it as a gateway to darker misogynistic behavior. Or the pickup artists. They insult women to undermine their confidence. And there are the incels, involuntary celibates, united in their rejection by women, and then their subsequent rage.
You guys ever heard of Cap before?
And with this generation, one name in particular comes up a lot.
This guy called Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate's made big headlines lately.
You're a normal man with a normal job. You don't really exist in the online world, and a lot of men feel lost and lonely because of that.
He's a 35-year-old internet celebrity and known as the king of toxic masculinity. He's become so notorious that he's been banned from Meta platforms and TikTok. In an interview in January, he said misogyny is just realism.
If you're a realist, then to some degree you're going to be a sexist. Women are effectively children. Women have to be monitored and maintained and maintained effectively like a child would.
What validates him is children, and when I say children, I mean children watching him.
I've heard from other teachers that kids in elementary and middle school idolize him, young boys are idolizing him and they want to do projects on him and speeches on him because they just think everything he says is so groundbreaking and wonderful, but it's just perpetuating violence against women.
Before Tate was removed from Instagram, the majority of his 4.9 million followers were young men.
Welcome to Hustlers University.
His own Hustlers University is an online school he started himself, which teaches these young men how to be alpha males and make money. Its website claims to have over 100,000 members. A representative for Tate told us, quote, his content has been misunderstood by those too lazy to properly watch it. Content like Tate's sucked one young man we spoke to down that rabbit hole. Ian Lang is a college student and considers himself a former men's rights activist.
You see that video, what do you start seeing pop up on your YouTube?
On my YouTube feed just becomes flooded with all these feminist-owned men's rights activists. Feminists don't want you to watch this video. Clickbait targeted at people just like me.
And what did you think when you start noticing this is what you're being served up, video after video on YouTube?
When you're a 14-year-old who's just looking for something to watch, I don't think you think about a whole lot. I don't think it really comes through your head.
What do you think that says about 14-year-old young men who are just on a continual loop for whatever YouTube suggests, or TikTok for that matter?
I think the algorithm is really stacked against them on that one. I think after you watch a video or two, I think it's hard to not go deeper because it's really easy to keep on going.
If you hadn't been served a video like that based on what you had been watching prior, would you ever have sought out content about men's rights activism?
I don't think so. If there's not an outside factor, if there's not someone who can come in and help pull them out, they will not get out.
And Lang hopes to be that outside factor.
More equality for other people isn't less equality for you.
Now, his TikTok channel focuses on bringing other young men away from an algorithm he says is stacked against them and geared toward making them hate women.
I joined the feminist community and I haven't looked back since.
Do you think the MeToo movement almost fired up some of these communities more?
I think so, yeah. I think when there's a lot of discussion about men being potential sexual assaulters, rapists, etc., I think it's really easy for a lot of men to get defensive about that, even though that's not a label that would apply to them.
Even Rosanna Arquette wonders if women are living in a better world 5 years later, or if things have gotten worse.
There's clearly been a backlash from it all because the patriarchy has reared its very ugly head, and now we're witness to it.
And for a young person who thinks, that wasn't for me, that wasn't about me, what would you say to them?
It scares me when someone says that because it's all for you, you know? It's absolutely all for you. I mean, I did this for my daughter so that she would be able to have her own voice and be able to stand up to her, an abuser and be able to speak her truth.
Are you hopeful? And if so, why?
I'm hopeful because because I believe in the power of truth, justice, and freedom, and democracy. And if we lose hope, then life is not worth living.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.